Welcome everybody. It's 6 wins. It's noon o'clock Eastern Standard Time on Saturday. This
Mhm.
is this is our time. This is what we benchmark. You can save your 9 a.m. for what culture, your 8:30 a.m. Pacific time for that jerk over at nodq.com, Aaron Rift. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. What's up, Aaron? But yeah, we're here to review this week in wrestling. First of all, Matt, how you doing? How was your week?
The week, as most weeks are, they kind of suck, but you get to Thursday and Friday and you start feeling good. I felt really good yesterday. Feeling good today, even though it's like rainy weather. Sometimes you don't mind having that rainy day, so you can really just not feel guilty about being lazy and staying in.
Yeah,
So that's what
absolutely.
I'm gonna do. What about you? How are things going over there?
Oh, they're good. So we have a 3-season room at our house, and we've had a leak in it for past 6 months to a year, and I can proudly say I've successfully, I guess, completed my first home like work project and
Yeah.
resolved an issue.
Ooh.
I am not a Tim the Tool Man. I don't know how to do anything. I always have to call on my uncle and my dad to come help me out with, I need to install a ceiling fan. So they'll come over, whatever. But I didn't do anything fancy. I went up there and I Googled it. I did like my fair research. And ultimately what it came down to is just that flex tape, the
Yeah.
classic infomercial. It's like that, but a spray. So I just went up
Oh,
there
cool.
and like 4 lines with the spray, second coat, third coat, and voila, we had quite a bit of rain. No drips, no
Oh,
drops. So I'm
nice.
feeling real good, real dry over here.
Real dry, new gimmick for Chris, Mr. Fix It, or the dry man.
I'm a dry guy like Fred
The
Durst.
dry guy. Oh, that makes so much sense, Durs.
You're a dry guy? Oh man. So for anyone that's watching doesn't get the reference, workaholics.
Oh man, such a good show. It's probably one that if I revisited, I would love again. I haven't seen an episode in years, and it was one of my favorite shows for a while.
Absolutely, absolutely. So good stuff. Well, welcome everybody. If you're joining us live, I see a couple of you in here. We'll chat with you. Feel free to leave a chat. We got the chat pulled up here, and if you're joining us for the first time, after the fact, welcome. We're here at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time every Saturday to review This Week in Wrestling. We are 6 wins, and we thought it would be cool to pick out the top 6 happenings in wrestling. So, what we wanted to start off with, what we wanted to kick off was talking about our current bracket, because we here at 6 wins,
Yeah.
we do brackets of different things, and we are currently doing not the best sex positions, which you might think by looking at this image. We're doing the best finishers,
Oh,
which
you had me fooled there. I thought it was best wrestling sex moves.
yes, best wrestling sex moves followed by the finisher.
Yeah.
Ba-dum-ba-dum. We put this together, and the voting is live now. We do one poll a day. Now, what happened was we are just kind of turning a leaf in terms of updating our equipment, and we want to kind of put out a better product for you all. And what happened was, in doing so, I botched something, and there was an audio issue. So we weren't able to put up the video of us drafting the bracket. It's probably my favorite thing that we do as a YouTube channel. But the audio issues, I tried to resolve it, but it just wasn't up to par. So we didn't put up the video, but the brackets are still ongoing, and we did have a hell of a time. So I wanted to ask you, Matt, were there any finishers that landed on that bracket that you could see making a push for the final four or even the finals?
Ooh, well, I talked about this in our draft. I was like, but I think I changed my mind as we went. Before we started, I was like, finisher bracket. I don't know how this is gonna go. Are we gonna have like too many and have to leave out a bunch of good ones, or too few and it gets like really watered down? And I feel like it was closer to the first one, honestly. We had to leave out some really solid finishers. But in my mind, when we started, I was like, I can probably only see like 4 to 8 of these really having a chance to go all the way. There could be some upsets, but like there are the favorites. And I think like I think with how popular the RKO is meme-wise lately, so Mr. Baboon Guy actually just said RKO.
Oh
I do
yeah.
think RKO is a favorite because of its currentness and memeness, but I think that's like the more modern stunner, because that was a move that always just popped out of nowhere because Stone Cold would do it to anybody at any time. So I would love to see a stunner RKO final. There are
Mhm.
some other ones. I'm guessing, it's unfortunate we had to put 6 power bombs in one bracket. Otherwise, we could have had a power bomb final 4. Obviously, everybody would pick power bombs, but no. Yeah, there's that one region that's just like 5 variations of power bombs. I love it.
Yeah, that was hilarious. That was kind of our what a big man region. We had the power bombs. We had, I think
F5 was
maybe,
in there.
yeah, the F5. I was gonna say Batista bomb, but that's a variation of the power bomb
Yeah.
itself. So yeah, then we had the little quad with all submission moves, kind of some of the best submissions.
Yeah. Anything you're expecting? Do you think the winning move will be I shouldn't even say this is a joke. A submission, an aerial move, or a standard finisher? Like standard
I
standing on the ground.
Yeah, I gotta go standard. I gotta go standard. I think those are the most popular moves, and I think that out of nowhere aspect is huge. So I
Yeah.
would go traditional. Personal favorite, I like a good aerial move. I like a good Neville busting out the red arrow. I
Ooh,
like a
yeah.
good Ricochet busting off, what is it, the 630
Jeez, yeah.
splash. It just, to me, it's the most impressive. I think I like them most just because I look at them. I'm like, I couldn't do that.
Yeah.
I could lock a sharpshooter on anybody, but
Sure.
I feel like the room for error is so narrow. You do one thing and you
Yeah.
your foot comes across a guy's face and no bueno.
Yeah, it's those aerial moves a lot of times are all on you. I mean, hell, we could choke slam a guy 100 pounds heavier than us if he's a good seller, if he can jump pretty good, we can make it look like we choke slam somebody. So I'm hoping we get one aerial move in the final 4, but I'm also thinking it'll be a lot of just kind of standard on the ground finishers. But I'm good with that.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So, but we appreciate all the votes we get. I swear, I say it every time we talk about these brackets, but when we started, we would get 10 votes. 10 people would vote, which was cool. We were like, okay, that's, 10 up to 20 was enough to feel like, okay, we're getting a decent measure. And when we first started Six Wins, we went out to the mall to poll people in person. And that was, I mean, that was a fun time. But now, just on YouTube, we're getting over 100 votes on almost every poll. And what's super cool about that is I saw a stat somewhere that said poll 10% of people who come across a poll online will actually take it. So if 100 people are voting, that means maybe 1,000 of you are seeing it. Now, I would love to see if 1,000 of you are seeing it. I would love to see those numbers go up and see. I mean, gosh, could you imagine if we had 500 people voting on something or 1,000 people in all the comments? People get pretty passionate about the finishers for sure.
Yes, yeah, I'm excited because I know when we start probably honing down to Sweet 16s and Elite Eights and beyond, I think you're going to see more of those really tight, close matchups. I think it will bring out more people because right now in the first round, some of these early round matchups are pretty far apart. So people are just voting. They don't feel like they gotta like comment. They don't gotta like what's wrong with you people? How is this losing yet? But we could have it. We could have it happen. So
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Well, good stuff. What we'll do is we'll change gears. We want to get into the meat and bones of our weekly live streams. We're going to
the
talk about
bones too. Oh
the
my
bones,
gosh.
the bag of bones, the tombstone bones. And I just realized this image didn't do any better with thinking that we weren't talking about best sex positions. You see the Undertaker, the Undertaker is getting it real good from HBK there. Kurt Angle's got Lesnar in some kind of weird transitional move.
Yes, he's preparing the hole and getting him a bit wider so everything can fit. I'm surprised that had Val Venus been the first to do a tombstone pile driver, I have to imagine they would have called it the 69 pile driver.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
so I think we were very lucky. Undertaker was the first one to use that
Yeah.
in a major public way.
Yeah, 100%. What did Val Venus use? The money shot?
The money shot. Yeah, somebody chatted that in one of the comments actually. I would like to do last thing on the draft and best finisher bracket. You went on record with a hot take, although I agree that you don't think Eddie Guerrero's Frog Splash is the best version of the Frog Splash, and I would agree. And I actually think like a top 6 Frog Splash videos for guys that performed it would be great. I'd probably have Eddie down at 5 and 6 if he makes it. Give me a Seth Rollins. Give me a KO. Give me a money shot from Val Venus. I know you would take Montez Ford. Give me a Rob Van Dam 5-star Frog Splash. Give me D'Lo, and then Eddie. So I'd love to. There's a quick quick off the top of my head top 6 for you. Best 6 Frog Splashes.
Absolutely. I love that one. And I think, I don't know if you mentioned probably my favorite one is as of late is the Logan Paul one where he stretches out.
Oh, yeah.
He did one at WrestleMania 40 where he got up so high he touched his toes midair and then
the toe toucher Frog Splash. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Money shot was hilarious. Yes. Yeah. Val Venus. I cannot believe that character existed. I rarely say that because people are like, can you believe this existed back in the day? It's like, yeah, there's still stuff like that. This was a guy who was literally a male adult entertainer character on like public television.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable what they got away with.
He got his dick cut off in at the end of Raw. They used like a big kielbasa in like a silhouette. He got like abducted by Kai and Tai. There was like a Japanese storyline where they're all envious of Val Venus's member, and they had like a shadow puppet mimery and went and like cut and like sliced the kielbasa on screen on Raw and made it seem like Val Venus's penis got cut off.
Just the lengths they went for entertainment. It was a different time. It really was a different time. But arguably the best era since the Attitude Era is right now. I love modern day wrestling. It's the best it's been in a long time, in my humble opinion. But I thought we could start off with talking about everybody's favorite new fresh heel, Chad Gable, and just what's coming out of that. So he came out with Alpha Academy, and he just cut down everybody in his group. You know, of course, he cut down Tozawa, but then he told Maxine, she's pretty as a princess, but dumb as a box of rocks.
Yep.
And I can't hear him without picturing Kurt Angle. And he told Otis he's the biggest disappointment of them all. And poor Otis just standing there taking it. And then ultimately what I loved about it is he told them that he's going to make them stay with him.
Yes.
Until he wins the title. So they're going to, I think, do a storyline where they're reluctantly with him. And then maybe we get that big payoff where, you know, Otis or the whole group finally turn on him to, you know, a big pop, and he gets what he has coming to him, so to speak.
Yeah, I agree. I definitely agree that I liked that he didn't just leave and say, I'm got to do this on my own, but like, I'm trying to make you guys better. Like this, we lose too much. You're dumb. You're the big. He hit him with that waiting. He hit him with the ending monologue from Waiting. He was like, "You to Otis. You know, you are by far the biggest." And you're like, "Oh, he's gonna say so nice." Disappointment. Nailed him with it. Brilliant. But yeah, I really like them keeping Alpha Academy together. We're gonna win an Intercontinental title. Alpha Academy is about Gable now. And I like that there are options. Yes, they could turn on him to a face pop, but if for whatever reason this heel turn isn't working or they don't pull the trigger on him winning, but he stays a heel, they could have Alpha Academy turn on him in a way where I think the fans would, like, at his lowest moment, right? He loses and they just beat him down after the match against like Sami Zayn or something, or he was almost going to win and like something happened and there's a fluke. And I could see them also face pushing him back again out of this.
Yeah.
So I like that. I think there are options here. It's a good spot for Gable. I hope it leads to a lot more time for him in the main card.
Yeah, same. I think everyone's catching on by now that they've gotten something special with him, and he's taken pretty much everything they've thrown at him from
Yeah.
Shorty G. I mean, American Alpha was a great tag team. Shame what happened with Jason Jordan, but he's just taken whatever they give him, turn it into gold, and I'm really excited to see this new Alpha Academy just taken in a different direction with a little bit of edge to it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting to see if they get clean wins, dirty wins, or continue to lose and send Gable into a spiral.
Yeah.
So it could go anyway. And yeah, again, that's why I like it. I think they can see how things go one week to the next and then kind of adjust and make them either more dominant, less dominant. Gable's winning, but they're losing. They're winning, Gable's losing. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Well, from one mid card just guy that's excelling to another, but maybe not in the mid card anymore. I was very intrigued by Gunther's promo because rather than coming out and saying, kind of griping about his loss, he, in his own way, tipped his hat to Sami Zayn a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't a thing where he was thrust right into the main event picture. He's talking about going through King of the Ring, which is something
Right.
they haven't put any emphasis on in a while. So, do you have any thoughts just on where Gunther's heading or King of the Ring in general?
Yeah, I'm glad King of the Ring is back and there will be a focus on it because, like you said, in some years they've tried and they've put a little more focus, or at least they've put focus on the winner after for a bit, where they've had a gimmick for a while. Corbin, most famously, maybe as King Corbin for quite a long time, and I think that was even interacting with Chad Gable as he was Shorty G. But I would love them to build King of the Ring as a really prestigious thing to earn. Gunther being the longest reigning Intercontinental Champion, setting his sights on this and saying, this now is what I'm after, is going to up that prestige so that anybody else can rightfully say, no, this is going to be me. I didn't get the chance at Gunther. I'm going to be the king. So I hope they put as much focus into this as they could.
Yeah.
And I guess, who would be your ideal winner? Does Gunther win it, or do you have him go deep and crown somebody else, let them feud for a bit, and then move him up or something like that? What are your thoughts?
Man, my first thoughts are it's gotta be Gunther. It's gotta be done right, like back when they first conceptualized it, late 90s, early 2000s, where the King of the Ring meant something. It means you're kind of up next. They've kind of done that with Money in the Bank, but even then, they
Yeah.
haven't really pushed the Money in the Bank holder that much. It just kind of usually comes from out of nowhere. So
They try to hide them more so a lot of times because they
yeah,
don't want that surprise spoiled. So the Money in the Bank guy a lot of times retreats more in the background.
yeah, I totally agree. So I like anything that puts prestige on someone while they're kind of being rocketed from mid card to upper card.
Yeah.
And I think King of the Ring is just perfect. I always loved that. I never understood why they sort of did away with it, but I think it should be Gunther, at least at this point in time, unless you want to throw it at my guy right now, Braun Breaker.
I'd like to see him in it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
me too.
and maybe a Gunther Breaker final. Either Braun comes up short, but I think he'd still look good, or he does win it, and then we get a short feud between the two of them. But yeah, and I completely agree. I don't know why King of the Ring just has to be you get the title of King of the Ring. I think they can also say and you're guaranteed the title shot at within the next 3 months. You get to choose a title or something, or just the brand you're on. But in the next 3 months, you pick up PLE, call your shot. You're the king.
Yeah, totally. Totally. So the fallout of the match too, while we're on the topic of Gunther, the New Day came out, and I like how they did the long term storytelling where Xavier Woods was technically the last King of the Ring. So,
Yeah, yeah.
he said he's defending his title of King of the Ring. So then they had the classic New Day versus Imperium match. And finally, I guess it was a Raw of implosion. Uh, Kaiser turned on Vinci, and kind of leaves me wondering, where does that leave Vinci? And is Kaiser going to stay with his love interest, Gunther?
Well, I think it's a good non-title. I think it's a good like non-title mid-card feud to see where the crowd will get behind these two guys.
Yeah.
Because they're obviously going to be very talented in the ring, and if they can continue to develop, they could be at least mid card champions, if not upper mid card, down the line in a few years, contending for big titles if they continue to develop character and in ring ability and stuff. So I think this will just be like a good, like really high intensity feud. Not literally brother versus brother, but anytime a tag team or partners break up, you get that kind of bad blood feud going on there. So I think that's where they'll go with that. Do you have any other thoughts? Do you think they might go a different way, short term or long term?
Well, I do think they'll probably do that feud, maybe Backlash and whatever PLE comes after that. I could see that. I think Kaiser has a brighter future. I worry a little bit for Giovanni Vinci. I don't know what he has to stand on his own 2 feet. Hopefully in their feud, something comes of it where, something clicks with the crowd. If not, maybe it's back to a solid run at NXT where they can kind of groom him for a singles push. But I don't think being put back to NXT, this is kind of a side note, I don't want to go off on a tangent, but these days NXT is less developmental and more of just a third brand. Guys like Divic, Dijak, I always forget his name, Dijak and Baron Corbin, and just a lot of that roster, they thrive there.
Corbin,
They thrive there, and
Dolph Ziggler went down there for a while when he was with WWE in the last few years. Ziggler would go down there, feud. Yeah. No, right. I completely agree. I was thinking about this earlier today. I was thinking about Shinsuke. I don't know why. And I was just like, I wonder what WWE allows for guys, because I was like, there's some really talented guys that just basically have to kind of be a high level jobber, not the jobbers for the squash matches, but like, here's a name you recognize. Can Braun Breaker beat him? And Braun Breaker does, or Carmelo Hayes does, or somebody that needs a bump back up does. Ivar and Shinsuke are kind of those two guys now. And it's like, could they, if they asked to go back down to NXT to be more of a focal point, would they let them? Or do they like, there is a role, there is a need for a guy like that. I was just thinking about like contracts and stuff. It's not important, but my mind was just wondering about that today. So yeah, it's interesting you bring up NXT. Yeah, Vinci kind of has like that Cesaro vibe to me. Maybe not even as electric as a personality as of right now as Cesaro got. So yeah, if nothing comes of this, he might be a tag team wrestler he might be a lifer tag teamer.
A lifer tag teamer, yeah, to see him link up with Tozawa after the pending Alpha Academy breakup. So, but I guess from one mid to upper card feud to the next, Sheamus and Drew, the classic battle of the European guys,
the old UK islands.
There you go. I was glad to see Sheamus back in the mix. And Drew wasted no time throwing daggers at him. I love the line where he said, you talk about banger after banger after banger, but lately it's looking like it's burger after burger after burger. I think I did 4 accents in one there. I
thought you did pretty good there with that. Honestly, it was pretty good.
It wasn't as good as your Finn Balor, but maybe I'll give it like a 4 or 5. But yeah, I don't know. I'm very curious as to your thoughts of where they might be heading with this. Are they going to feud, or are they going to kind of be pals that beat up on each other sometimes. They've always had an interesting dynamic where they were partners, but they would kind of beat the hell out of each other, but be buddies afterwards. It wasn't a thing where, oh my God, he hit him. That means, they were
Yeah.
splitting up and they're at odds now. They kind of took a unique way, a unique, I guess, angle where they would kind of kick each other's asses and then be like, oh, let's go grab a pint.
Yeah, and Drew said as much during the promo, like I'm one of your only friends. Let me get that clear. Not you're one of my only friends. I'm one of your only friends, which is a more of a heel line right there. But I'm one of your only friends back there. All the guys are talking about you. Even after we had our matches, I wanted to go out and drink with you. I respect you. So I think it was a way to get Sheamus back and have Drew and Sheamus both be something kind of high profile and let the kind of see how the crowd would react to either of them. I'd rather they do a small short feud than get teamed up again and they're like a tag team. I think they need to be singles wrestlers right now, but I don't anticipate it will be like they're only focused on each other feud. I think they'll kind of bounce in and out of each other's feuds every once in a while. And maybe have like this really long-term seed in case there's a big match down the line that they could have. But I don't think it'll just be like they're getting booked and, one guy's coming out there and interfering in the other one's match. And then they're going to have that pay-per-view match, PLE match as a blow-off and things like that. I think they'll kind of stay apart, but just be around each other, but not against each other.
Yeah. No, I could totally see that happening. And I agree. I don't think I think their time as a tag team has run its course. And yeah, I think they're off to do separate things, but they're both going to kick ass. They'll both be totally fine. I think Sheamus might be kind of approaching the tail end of his career, but he's got some left in the tank. So, but hey, I wanted to call one thing out. I wanted to do a thing that's a little bit off the beaten path of wrestling, but we do get comments on some of our videos, and I wanted to shout out one comment in a segment that we like to call the comment of the week. And our pal D Sinister 24 commented on one of our videos, and he said, "Never thought I would see John Stockton give wrestling takes." And I can't stop thinking about it. And it might have been the funniest thing because with the exclamation point, it's not meant to be rude, but I just sat there. I'm like, and I think he was talking about, he might've been talking about you. I don't know, but John Stockton, what can you say? Does it get more bland and more white than John Stockton? I don't know. Hey, The Pain. Thanks, man. Keep grinding. You will be very big soon. Trust. We appreciate that, my friend. We just do it because we love wrestling. We love talking wrestling, and thank you for your comment. And if you want to get a shout out in one of our videos, leave comments on our videos so we can say, hey, The Pain, look at this comment you left on this random video we had. You said, never thought I would see John Stockton.
When I saw that comment, I thought it could be about me. Because I think because I really liked John Stockton when I was growing up, and I kind of wanted to be him, and it would be this like the saddest thing to be like, I wanted to be John Stockton when I grew up. I was like already taller than him when I was like in third grade. But at first I was like, whoa, yeah, maybe that's about me. But the only reason I thought it wasn't is because I don't think John Stockton ever had a beard, maybe not even a 5 o'clock shadow. So I was like, I think it might be Chris. But yeah, it really could be any. You almost wonder, like, if they morph the two of us together, you might have John Stockton. So
you might, and we were just joking, and we keep it strictly wrestling here. But just if you know who John Stockton is, perhaps the only bland white fellow to ever play in the NBA. All the other whites, and there weren't many of us, were either from foreign lands outside of the United States, or they had some style swagger to them. I love how John Stockton looked like a guy who you could just see at a bank or wherever.
Yeah.
So
But
But
yeah,
Matt,
also,
yeah,
go. I was
you
gonna
go,
say
you go,
also,
you go.
thank you again. I know you already thanked it, but thank you to the Pain for that comment. If you have any wrestling topics or any thoughts on some of the topics we've taught, feel free to share them. We'll interact with you if you've got any thoughts about Chad Gable, which we've talked about so far. We've talked about Sheamus and Drew McIntyre. And then we've also talked a little bit about our own best finisher draft. I'm missing something. We talked about something else.
Gunta, and
Oh, Gunther
Imperium.
and King of the Ring. Yeah, if
Yes.
you've got any thoughts on those and want to share them with us, we're always glad to see comments from people watching and saying like, John Stockton is the assist leader in the NBA, like all-time assist leader.
Hey, holler! That's awesome.
I mean, that's why I wanted to be him. He just ran that high pick and roll with Karl Malone. I grew up close to Chicago, and I hated the Bulls because I'm like an anti-home team fan. Like I hated all the home teams because all my friends were like, this is the best team ever. And I was like, guys, it's just because it's the closest city doesn't mean they're the best players ever. Of course, they have Michael Jordan, one of the greatest of all times. But I always rooted for the Jazz to beat the Bulls, and they never did. And I was always very sad about it.
Yeah. So, but yeah, thank you again, the Pain. But Matt, I wanted to kick it over to you because this was a topic you threw on the radar to talk about. And again, just to comment on anyone here or watching after the fact, we do our top 6 in weekly wrestling. This, I guess, technically would be number 4. So, Matt, going to kick it over to you. You wanted to touch on Becky Lynch winning the World Heavyweight Women's title, whatever they're calling it.
Yeah. How you never talk about a women's weight? You do not call that a heavyweight title. You call that a perfect weight title. No, no, but I mean, always big news when a top card champ has to drop the title. Rhea Ripley actually injured in it sounded like the backstage segment with Liv Morgan had to drop the title, and they had a battle royal to crown a new champion on Raw. Very rare that you get a title change on a live non-paid event as well. So kind of a big deal. I was actually surprised when I saw that they were doing a battle royal. I thought it was going to be like for like a number 1 contender or just like to figure out like somebody that might wrestle for it against Becky Lynch or something. I didn't know when they announced it. But yeah, they had the battle royal. Becky Lynch came away as the winner. I believe it came down to her and Liv Morgan as the final 2. What are your thoughts? Was that the right call for Becky to be the winner after falling short to Ripley at WrestleMania? And whether or not it was or not, who do you think? What do you think will happen next with this? Was it to be a short reign or a long reign, and hold it until Ripley gets back?
Good question. I breath of fresh air kind of took the words out of my mouth. Shouldn't have been Becky. I think Becky was the safe choice. I don't hate Becky by any means. I've seen a lot of the internet kind of turn against her, which is weird. She's just built this position for herself to where she can always be taken seriously as a champion, and she won the Battle Royal. I think a more interesting choice would have been Nia Jax. I do think she's been kind of killing it lately in her new role. I never thought I would say that, but I guess I'm a Nia Jax fan. Or someone that's up and coming would have been interesting. Correct me if I'm wrong. Was Tiffany Stratton in this battle royal? Because she's my current number 1. She kills it. I think she checks all the boxes. Was she in this battle royal?
I don't know. I want to say yes. She's very popular right now. I think she was, but yeah, either way, she was definitely somebody that I would have said, like, if I had to pick if I had to pick a short list of 5 people, she would have been one.
Yes. Okay. So cool. So, if it's not going to be Tiffany and you are going with Becky, I say let Becky be sort of a Rollins champ times 2, have her go down to NXT, defend it, have her defend it more often on Raw. And maybe she gets, I don't want to say full of herself, but maybe she defends too much and gets broken down a little bit. And then you have someone take it on maybe a random episode of Raw, and that's how you do it. But if she's just going to be a placeholder till Ripley gets back, I don't love that, but I would like it to be a shorter reign, but more of a workhorse reign. What do you think?
Yeah, breath of fresh air. Who would you have had win this if not Becky? If you wanted to share your thoughts on that. It's so weird. I'm gonna almost agree with literally everything except one thing,
Uh-huh.
and that's only gonna be a joke when I get there. But I would agree. I think sometimes when people have to relinquish a title, WWE wants, especially if it's to somebody that they just beat. I think WWE wants to like be like, oh, let's wait and have them come back and win their title back and be like, you never earned this, you never beat me. I'm the and have Rhea Ripley come back and beat Becky. I hope they don't do that because I think that's just going to be too long. Anyone but Becky. I think this is going to be too long of a time. But maybe Ripley's timeline for return isn't that long.
Yeah.
The one thing I am going to disagree on is I think it should have been Natalia. I'm just kidding. No,
Ah.
I'm just kidding. No, that's
I
my
was
joke. I'm actually 100% in agreement with Nia Jax, and I also never thought I would say that because I don't. This is your chance. Nobody wants not the kind of wrestler that Nia Jax is, and same with Omos or Great Khali. When they get built to be this big monster heel for the face, that story always plays out where it looks so bad, but the face wins. And I think it's because if you did flip up that story, nobody really wants to see those people win and be champ. Because then, like, they're almost immediately too dominant if they can beat the champ. How do you build up somebody new?
Right.
But this is the chance to have like Nia Jax win it in a battle royal and have somebody be able to take her down singles that doesn't need this big convincing. I think if Nia Jax didn't win it here, I don't think she'll ever win the title. I don't think she's ever going to win it because she's just in that role where it's like people are really going to hate a champion that's like, because they're just more massive and can't be moved by the other people in the division, they are superior. And it's just so hard to book that. It's so hard to book them to eventually lose without something kind of corny and cheesy. So I think this was the chance to have Nia Jax win it. Could have been a short reign. She loses at the next PLE in France. Could have been a mid-length reign, beats one or two people until somebody tough builds their way up. Jade Cargill could have been massive if she won it from Nia Jax. If that's what you're looking to do, it wouldn't have had to be a good match anyway, because really, Nia Jax isn't going to have any great matches. Jade Cargill, like you said, still in that green territory, but the pop alone from her being able to lift Nia Jax, slam her, and win a match that way would have been like, would have sold people at least for a short enough or mid-length reign if you're going to have them be on the same show. So I hope, I do think, I'm hoping Becky loses it. It's a short transitional reign, maybe to Liv or someone else.
Yeah, totally agree, man. Good stuff. All right, let's talk about the feud that never ends. And they've already announced it, actually, that this match is going to main event WrestleMania 55. It's going to be Santos Escobar versus
the first one in Mexico City.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, they could pull something like that off. I do want to say, without throwing too much shade at this feud, as kind of burned out on it as I am, I love Santos Escobar. I think he's got a really bright future. I think the guy's got charisma for days. But really, the main thing coming out of this feud was that he finally revealed that he's got the security footage, and he revealed to everybody that it was not him that took out Dragon Lee. It was Carlito, who did the funniest thing perhaps I've ever seen. He just like back there, he didn't want him to show it, and then once he showed the footage, he attacked Dragon Lee from behind and then ran away. And I thought it was just so funny, and I'm excited to see a Carlito heel turn. I missed out. That period of time where he was kind of popping off and his gimmick, that was like the only period of time since like 1997 that I wasn't really watching a whole lot. I was in college, but I'm excited to see it revamped. So what do you think? Any thoughts on just the whole LWO Legado del Fantasma feud?
Yeah, hopefully they bring back his longtime kind of weird, strange bedfellows tag team partner, Chris Masters, with the Master Lock, who is also like him and Carlito were both kind of like young new guys that are rising together, and they got paired together a little bit. I actually loved Chris Masters in the Master Lock. You knew he was never going to get over big, but his Master Lock challenge was great. Classic heel submission where he just knocks out guys. I know Bobby Lashley did with the Hurt Lock for a while. Hurt Locker. It's the guys all in both of these groups are so talented in ring, and I think that's why they will keep running these matches back and keep this feud going, because even when the story isn't given as much attention, when you put them in matches, they always deliver, and the crowd is into it, and because the matches and their in-ring work is so high quality. So I don't know what you do with this, though, because Carlito seems to be out on his own. Does he try to join the heel group? And they reject him? Does he just run off and this was just like a pivot so they could do something a little bit different and maybe sort of move Santos into a tweener role? I'm not sure. What are you thinking how this might play out?
I think Carlito works best as a solo act. Sure, you could have him try to get in the good graces of Legado del Fantasma, but if he's bringing back the whole, like, I'm a cool guy and he's spitting apples at people, that almost doesn't fit his character if that's the direction they're heading. So I like him just kind of out on his own. You know, he doesn't need to go for the WWE title or anything like that at this stage in his career, but he could be a entertaining character that just, I don't want to say a time filler. I don't want to, throw shade at him in that way, but yeah, just a good solid act that they feature on SmackDown Weekly.
Yeah, I think if they're just gonna have it be some matches and stay within these two groups, let's get some stakes. It's been a while. We're gonna have a hair versus hair match. You can see Carlito get shaved bald, or hair versus mask. So a hair versus hair if he ends up they want to kind of push Santos a little more face. Hair versus hair match. Hair versus mask if he goes against Dragon Lee. But let's do it. It's stakes. It's played for comedy, which Carlito was always kind of a comedic heel. I think it's a good like lighter mid card thing that does have some that will have really high quality matches and like an important payoff since there's no title on the line for it.
Right, agree. I just had this thought randomly. I still think he should be out on his own, but if you are going to pair him with someone, maybe A-Town Down would be A-Town Down Under would be a decent fit for him. Grayson Waller just kind of has that cool guy vibe that might fit him. Just we are the three cool guys, or maybe like an R-Truth trying to be part of a Judgment Day. Carlito's trying to be part of A-Town Down Under, just because he thinks they're cool guys, but they're like, "What are you talking about, man? You're not cool."
Yeah, the only guy we barely trust each other because we're the biggest D-bags on the roster, but we don't trust you. We're never gonna let you in A-Town Down Under.
Right? That'd be funny. That'd just hilarious. Okay, so, alrighty. So what I wanted to end on, of course, would say the biggest news coming out of SmackDown was the draft. So we did the first 4 rounds of the 2024 draft, where they just did round robin. In the past, they've done Raw gets 2 picks, SmackDown gets 1 pick, and kind of trying to balance out just because Raw is a longer show. I always thought that was weird. But I don't know. Something just, again, felt a little off for me about the draft. It seems like the fact that the titles, if you carry a title, you're immediately assigned to the brand that you're already on. Yeah, I thought that was a little lame because then you're just taking out, 8 to 10 people who would be very interesting to see shake up where they would land. So I would love to have seen all the title holders be eligible for the draft, and I would have loved to see Roman Reigns. I thought that was kind of a cop out how they said Reigns isn't eligible.
He's withdrawn from the draft.
He's withdrawn. Exactly, that's the term Heyman used. So here's our first round. Do you have any thoughts on the first round, or were you surprised, or were you expecting to see someone else in this first round?
I will go, before I talk about the first round and the picks, I will go on record as saying that I do like that they established some rules ahead of time and kind of guided the draft where they wanted to go. Yes, it made it less of like a true draft, but it's always played as like a very non equatable to a real sport draft. It's nothing like any other professional sport draft, NFL draft going on right now. Nothing at all similar. Um, so I don't mind them keeping the title holders on the shows, because when they didn't, as soon as one show got the U.S. champion and they had a new champ, you knew they were just flipping the titles. And it's like, if you want that guy to have new feuds, you don't need to move him from show to show. Just move the other guys over that you want to feud with him. So I'm all right with that. And yeah, the one thing they did was they said, like, these are the superstars in the pool that can be drafted this night. They limited it. They said you can only pick them, because I think that a lot of times there was like, oh, can you believe they try to sell you that like drafting Jade Cargill #1 was like the steal. You had to go Cargill. Like Rollins is down there like 8. And it's like, this is ridiculous. But I like that they said, this is the pool of superstars you're drafting from night 1. This is the pool for night 2. It avoids that bullshit, basically, pardon my language, where it's the #1 has to be this big superstar, and you're trying to tell the crowd it's a big superstar by picking them #1, because you're trying to build them up. But I think Belair being on SmackDown is actually a change. She was typically more of a Raw superstar. So I think that actually is probably one of the biggest, most surprising picks, because otherwise a lot of stuff just held pattern, held serve. Jey Uso, he's obviously about to go up against Priest, so keep him on Raw. Rollins going to be on Raw still, going to be recovering from injury for a while. And Carmelo Hayes, I know, a big deal in NXT. He could have gone to either show, but him going to SmackDown just injects a little bit of new life into upper mid card or even main title card. He obviously had a match against Cody. Oh my God, yes, I love Corbin. The Pain says, what's your thoughts on Baron Corbin to SmackDown? I hope Baron Corbin, I know it'll be a filler feud for Cody, but I don't mind if Baron Corbin, if they need somebody that's like a decent enough threat that can put on a good match against Cody and bide some time for whatever bigger matches down the line for Cody, get Baron Corbin there. I love Corbin.
Yeah, big fan as well. Put him in the same conversation that we mentioned Chad Gable in just terms of they can make gold out of anything, and big Corbin fan as well.
Yeah, get him with A-Town Down Under, potentially, or get him first being friends with Logan Paul and then feuding with Logan Paul, maybe. I'd love to see Baron Corbin around any of the titles. I think he's so great.
Absolutely. So we came into the second round. We had Randy Orton go to SmackDown, Braun Breaker coming to Raw, Nia Jax go to SmackDown, Liv Morgan coming to Raw. I am very excited to see where they go with Braun Breaker. I have been a fan of his since early NXT days. I thought the guy was just so explosive in the ring and just so intense and checked all the boxes. And I think you'd give him, not to be silly, but Ryback, he could do the he could do the Ryback run better than Ryback did. I know Ryback has kind of made a joke of himself after he's left, but okay, fill in the Goldberg or Braun Strowman, just let him dominate and let him, build himself up on the main roster. I'm sure most people are familiar with him by now, but let's give him 3 to 4 months, show everyone we can do. If you got to do that through squash matches, cool. And then get him secured in a mid-card title. And maybe he's the guy to take it off Logan Paul, or who's the
Sami Zayn.
Sami Zayn. I like that. I like Braun Breaker versus Sami Zayn.
Ooh, I don't know if in the first month or two, because I think that's, I think if Braun Breaker were to win IC title, it would be off somebody that beats Zayn. But yeah, so they did break up Braun Breaker and Baron Corbin, who were working together as a tag team. So like the Pain said, Baron Corbin was a late after the show announced pick to SmackDown, Braun on Raw. So I like that, so that they don't have to feud or still be a team and they can go their separate ways. they're obviously both pretty well established single superstars anyway. Randy Orton to SmackDown is interesting though too. Like he was kind of a Raw guy, even though he only recently came back. So Randy Orton and Cody is probably some unfinished business there. Again, if you're biding time and giving Cody legitimate challengers, Randy Orton, you can't do much better than Randy Orton. Nia Jax on SmackDown. And then Bianca Belair on SmackDown. Bayley, yeah. I mean, Bayley has a lot of high tier challengers. It'll be interesting where they have Jade go. If Jade is on SmackDown, because I think we all are. I think a lot of people, not we all, because I don't care for this match, but I think many people want to see Bianca and Jade square off at some point. But I don't mind if they don't, at least for a while.
Right. If you're going to do that match, I say hold off till Mania. That to me is a huge match. Two of the most just physically impressive athletes they have, not just women, athletes. And yeah, I think one thing that I picked up on SmackDown, which I don't know why it's just occurred to me now, but it looks like they're going to be pairing up Orton and KO for the time being, and they're going to be facing the new Bloodline at Backlash. But talk about the two, I would say, least trusted superstars of all time. How many times have they turned on somebody and they're going to pair them up? And it's just, I feel like every week you're just going to be like, who's going to turn on who or who?
Oh, yeah.
And man, I love those two together. And I guess they got a new kind of talk show, like the Kevin Owens show. It's called RKO. And I think it's going to be featured on SmackDown. So curious to see what they do with that.
That's such a good point, and I don't want to play fantasy booking golf on a tangent. But one, I'd love if just like each week one of them turned on each other with like an RKO or a stunner, and then the next week the other guy did the same. And they came out like, I can't trust you, but we're still buds. Like, right. But I especially since they're on SmackDown with Cody, if KO stays on SmackDown, and we might see they might be building for a Survivor Series big bloodline match where Cody, Randy Orton, Kevin Owens can at least be, Tonga, Solo, Roman, or Rock if one of them is able to be back, and then fill in maybe two other guys on that team. I would at least think that you have a decent Survivor Series match there, which is not something you often get to say. So
right, 100%. So we had third round, and correct me if I'm wrong, are all of these superstars staying on their current brand? LA Knight, SmackDown, Ricochet, Raw, Bloodline, SmackDown, Sheamus.
I would imagine I don't know where Sheamus was, right. But I know, I would imagine these are all staying in place. Would I have switched anybody? I think LA Knight on Raw is maybe a missed opportunity. I think the Intercontinental title with Sami Zayn is a good mid-card title, and I think right now with Damian Priest, that top spot on Raw is very open.
Yes.
Because Cody and the feud around the Bloodline, Roman, and The Rock. Didn't the Dudley Boys host this round? Yes, I know Bubba Bubba was hosting the picks here, but I think LA Knight on Raw maybe would have benefited him more in the short term, but they, you got to say, I think they have a plan, and he's doing just fine anyway, and still over with the crowd. So I don't know. Do you think either one of him or anybody else could have been on a different show here?
I am okay with LA Knight on SmackDown. I think I had mentioned Braun Breaker being the one to dethrone Logan Paul. I like it. I like LA Knight being that guy too, to take down Logan Paul. Maybe they do LA Knight versus Logan Paul at SummerSlam.
Yeah.
And they have that guy. I will just say this. I just want Ricochet to thrive wherever he goes. The guy's so damn good. And I feel like for 5 years now, we've been like, hopefully Ricochet gets a bigger push. He's just one of those guys I feel like we're always behind, but just never quite cracks into that next level. So hopefully we see Ricochet do something more than just WWE speed on X, which is a funny sentence because it's no drug associated, but
it literally sounded like multiple drugs.
Right. Hopefully they just give Ricochet more to do than just drugs. So I just want to see Ricochet do well. The other ones I'm fine with. Keep the Bloodline on SmackDown. But yes, the pain. The Dudley Boys did host this one, and I forgot to mention the previous rounds. The round 2 was Michelle McCool and Tori Wilson, who
Yeah.
apparently has been drinking from the Fountain of Youth. Looks as beautiful as ever. So
Tori's still looking good. I didn't see her.
She looks
Tori was my favorite.
Yeah. She
I liked
looks
her over Trish when they were both on the same. I mean, obviously like Trish before, but Tori came in a few years later. I was like, oh no, I had it wrong. It's Tori Wilson.
Yeah, and again, not to go off on a tangent, but I always seem to have some crush that I'm crushing on currently in wrestling. Zelina Vega has been my go-to crush for the past like year or two, but she might be dethroned. And before that, it was Sasha Banks, but I think Zelina's gonna get dethroned for Tiffany Stratton. Tiffany Stratton and not just because she's gorgeous, but because damn it, she can go in the ring. Those moonsaults, I forgot what it's called, where she jumps up, she like leaps first rope, second rope, top rope, backflip. It's just
cool,
super impressive. I've never seen anyone do that move.
I think I'm not gonna say it isn't an appropriate joke.
What? Oh,
I was gonna call it the poon salt.
That's what it should be called.
That's
From
terrible.
Now on,
that's actually awful. No, don't repeat it. Don't say that in good company. That's what they would have named it during the day when Tori Wilson was a big deal, and my childhood search history would be very frowned upon. So
right. For sure, your LimeWire would have tanked the computer. Okay.
Yeah.
And then it was, I believe, Teddy Long who came out and did his shtick.
Goodness.
And JBL who announced the draft picks for round 4. And may I add this to just our topic of discussion? It was so funny to me where every time someone got drafted, they would cut to the Raw and SmackDown like conference boardrooms. And anytime they would announce a pick, the guys who picked them would be celebrating, high-fiving. And then like the people who missed out on the draft pick would be like throwing their pens and going, you see like papers flying and just
oh God,
very cartoony, but I found that to be very entertaining. And one more just point, and I will move on and pass it off to you to get your thoughts. But I thought it was silly that they saved a lot of picks or a lot of stables for like the later rounds. Prime example, Alpha Academy. You'd think you'd go first round with a group of 4, or you'd think you'd go first round with the Bloodline or hell, Judgment Day, but they saved this group of 4 solid superstars for like round 4. They're just like, whatever. And then Matt, I'm so sorry, but I just saw a question from the Pain. Yeah. Who's y'all's favorite active and all-time wrestler? So currently active, I have to acknowledge my tribal chief. Roman Reigns is my current favorite. And then all-time, it Stone Cold Steve Austin. And that's the bottom line. And Matt, what do you say? And the Pain, while Matt's
back at you, yeah.
Yeah, if you wanna hop in with yours, we can talk wrestling. We could be here till Sunday.
I think my favorite active wrestler is probably Seth Rollins. We're both gonna go with Shield guys, interestingly enough. But I was a huge Seth Rollins fan when he debuted. He was my favorite in the Shield, and then he continued. We got to go to the WrestleMania where he cashed in. I was a big Seth Rollins fan then, and I mean that just. I feel personally linked to him. I also was on a plane with him and snuck a picture of him when we were coming back through customs. So I feel like I have a personal connection to Seth Rollins, even though it's completely fabricated. So I gotta say Seth. My favorite of all time, I'd love to say this, but I know when everybody talks about this wrestler now, they go, I wish he wasn't doing the things he was doing in AEW. He's so bad. They need to like give him a break. But I love Jericho. I loved Jericho in WCW. He was like the biggest heel to one of my favorite wrestlers who only later did I realize, no, the reason I liked Dean Malenko was because Chris Jericho was so good as a heel. Oh, Drew McIntyre is really awesome right now.
Yeah.
Drew is, that's why I was like, it's hard for me to pick Seth Rollins right now because he's a little bland-ish just in terms of his role lately in the last few months, but Drew McIntyre is amazing. Undertaker is just like synonymous with wrestling. And yeah, AJ Styles is awesome. He is so good. I wish he was somewhat slightly more elevated from time to time within the shows. It's been a while since he's got to be a legitimate contender, even though he's going to go up against Cody. But I don't think there's a great chance of him winning. But AJ is incredible. Yeah. Those are my picks. What was that? What were we talking about the last round picks? And you were talking about Alpha Academy though, drafting the teams. Yeah, that's my final question. Unless you've got one other, this might be too long of a question for you, Chris. Do you like the draft? Should they keep doing it, or would you rather they do something else?
I do like the draft. I think it adds a good shakeup when they actually shake things up. I think maybe they do a thing because there's always pros and cons to every area. There's pros and cons to including champions. There's pros and cons to just doing it. More people get drafted to Raw than SmackDown because it's a longer show, like whatever. But I think if I was booking it, I would just go one episode of Raw. It doesn't need to be split up. I would just go one episode of Raw. Everyone can be drafted and do 8 rounds. And you just go who you think is the most valuable wrestler. That's who gets drafted number 1. So maybe it's Reigns, maybe it's Cody because he's the champ now. Maybe it's Bailey, maybe it's whoever you want to build your brand around. I feel like that's a better way to do it. And if you have to, and you would do a little bit of plotting and planning because of course you don't want your Intercontinental and US champion on the same brand. So maybe you do a thing where, Raw got Sami Zayn, so SmackDown's on the clock. Do they want to get Logan Paul? They probably should, but I think you just throw them all in a pool.
Interesting, yeah.
Occupy just one. Maybe do even like a coin flip. You do Adam Pearce and the SmackDown GM, who I always blank on his name. I freaking love the guy.
Nick Aldis.
Yeah, Nick Aldis, of course.
Of course.
And, but what about you?
I'll try to make it quick. I'm gonna go on record. I'm gonna say it. I understand. It's a necessary. I don't want to say evil because it's not bad, but it's a necessary thing that they have. But I don't like the draft.
Yeah.
And here's why. I think the goal of the draft is to shake up and move superstars around and kind of keep a brand split, which sometimes they keep, sometimes they don't. I'm fine with the fact that sometimes the brand split is real and sometimes it kind of blurs lines. Whatever. That's going to happen either way. But I think you might as well. I would rather I think the draft is too forced and too fake. It's not really who they would draft. Like, again, like you said, there's a team of 4 people, or the champions are off the table, or why wouldn't you just go title guy and switch it up if titles were on the line? So I almost wish, here are 2 thoughts I had for how you could accomplish the same goal of switching up superstars, but you're able to build storylines. I think that's my biggest issue with the draft. A lot of storylines usually don't come out of it. They've done 1 or 2 where a guy got drafted and didn't want to be on the show and stuff like that. But none of this leads to anything changing for somebody who got drafted. They're not like, I miss my friend. They've done that too, but it doesn't look like it's going that way now because teams are getting drafted together. So I would say one of 2 options. One, it's fixed, of course, just like the draft is, but you make it like the Royal Rumble entries, and there's a ball with all the superstars' names in there, and you pick it out, and you go, oh my God, we got Seth Rollins on our show. And Seth is like, or it was like, yes, Roman Reigns is never around. I get to defend again. I get to go for a title against some guy who'll be around. Just make it random because that's basically what it is anyway. They're just telling us this is the name that came out for this show. And it kind of has, could it be random? Or just open up like this 2-week period like they're doing now and say like, this is the trade time, the trade deadline zone. Raw and SmackDown are available the GMs are available to talk, trade guys, send guys over to another show for Nick Aldis can get like a free beer at a bar if he sends over, Ivar because we need a workhorse that's going to job out to everybody. I just think like don't disrespect my intelligence with the idea of this draft. I know it's all fake and forced, and nobody's really picking who they really would. Just go all out and say we're pretending that there are real names in these balls, and here they are, or
Yeah.
pretend that like the GMs are getting together and make a storyline. Be like, they kind of set one up like Chelsea Green, like, I know you guys are gonna, who wants me? Who's gonna draft me? And be like, Nick Aldis is trying desperately to trade Chelsea Green for literally anybody. We'll trade you for a legend contract for Hacksaw Jim Duggan to come out and go, oh, once a month. Like, I think it would build more stories for the characters if they found out, wait, you traded me? You traded me, the guy that was your champion for this long, for this guy. Like, I think it would be more interesting, and I think it would give you some dynamics to play with a story following this.
Yeah, I would be totally on board for that. And that would make a lot of sense to keep your champions. Keep your champions, but then draft everybody else. And then you're drafting around your champions. And then, like you said, storyline galore. And you could get so much out of it for this time that's known as kind of a little bit of a lull time post Mania. So you have your champion try to con so the GM being like,
"Oh, you should trade this guy.
yeah, trade this
I'm
guy.
scared of him." Yeah.
Yeah, you're cowardly champion, whatever. Logan Paul doesn't want to be in the same brand as Randy Orton and Kevin Owens, for example, whatever you want to do. But I like that, and I like that for the Royal Rumble, which brought back this year, but in a smaller capacity.
Oh man, I love that too, because the big flip up there, because you're talking about like, I wish the champions were on the line. You have Logan Paul say, you should trade these guys. They're no good. They're bad for the brand. So, so he doesn't have any challengers. And it ends up turning out, after 1 or 2 years where they do this and you never see any champions traded, Logan Paul is traded to the other show. He's like, hey, I have a solution. You're not going to ever have to face Randy or Kevin, but you're going to another show. And there's a guy that's like built in that is like ready for that title shot. Like LA Knight's waiting there. Braun Breaker's like, oh, goody. And Logan's like, no, why did I do this? Like, oh, yeah, it'd be so great, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wonder where Braun Strowman's been, if he's still injured. That's just a side, maybe bullet point we can talk about next week. But Braun, when you said Braun Breaker, for whatever reason, I thought you were gonna say Braun Strowman. And I'm like, yeah, he's always taken seriously in that upper mid card role, in that like Ivar Shinsuke Nakamura role where they're awesome, but they always lose.
Yeah, bummer.
So, but yeah, all right. And so you said there was 2 ways you could go. Was that one, and you got another?
Well, yeah, one was the random balls and just make it like it's this big lottery and you just pick. But I like the one more where it's like a trade window. There's after WrestleMania, there's 1 month where the GMs can negotiate trades. They will all be announced on Raw. It gives you a lot of backstage segments you can do, like you said, during that lull period. A lot of champions can leverage, or a lot of new guys can say like, hey, I just missed my shot. I didn't win at Mania, but I want to be on your show. Can you trade someone for me? I think it'd be cool. Little trade window.
Yeah, I agree. I love that idea. We should be writing for this stuff. No, I'm just kidding.
We tried. We applied. Maybe I applied once.
I've applied. Yeah, I've applied as not just writer, but production assistant. Anything to get on the road. Nowadays, I can't really leave home. But anyways, I appreciate everyone for joining. The pain, breath of fresh air, baboon guy.
Baboon guy.
Yeah, been with us for a while. So I appreciate everyone's takes. We love talking wrestling.
Who is that 6 Wins Wrestling in the chat? Oh, that's us.
Oh, yeah.
Thanks to that guy.
Yeah, total jobber. No, but we appreciate everyone. And again, if this is your first time tuning in, 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time every Saturday, we go over the week in wrestling, and we talk about what we think are the top 6 newsworthy events coming out of wrestling. So that's it for me. Matt, anything else from you before we wrap up?
Have a good weekend. Think about your draft choice, your number one. Yeah, leave a comment with your number one draft pick. We talked about this once in a video when we were doing a bracket recap. But if you had to start your own wrestling company and you got to draft anybody from any wrestling show, who would your number one pick be? Think about that in the meantime. Mr. The Pain, we'd love it if you could be here next week. We appreciate the comments so much, like Chris said. We hope you and everyone here hanging out does have a great weekend, and hope the next week of wrestling brings some more really fun stuff to talk about. Chris, why don't you take us away?
Heck yeah. Well, we'll see you next week. Stay tuned. Our channel, we always post new videos every Monday, shorts every day, daily polls, and now weekly wrestling recaps. So we'll see y'all next